Hey, everybody, it's Perch. Let's talk about correlation. And in this case, we're going to talk about a comment that Tom Brevoort made to a question. Question in this case is from Joe West saying, is there any, it's now the show, by the way, has become questions on other people's channels that I'm answering. I'm just kidding. Well, yeah, whatever. Joe West writes, is there anything we can expect anticipate for Cloak and Dagger in the next year? Feels like they've never been more popular than they are right now, thanks to Marvel Rivals, and I'd just love to see them, at the very least, have more team-up appearances in major books. Tom Brevoort answers, I tell you, Joe, I tend to think that popularity in Marvel Rivals likely has more to do with play mechanics than it does the characters themselves. Which is to say that I haven't seen any major correlation between popularity in the game and the rise of interest in the character in print, outside of maybe one or two outliers. That said, we are planning to do something with Cloak and Dagger in the near future, so that potential audience will have something to take a look at. Now, there's a lot kind of dumb and wrong with this sentence or with this statement. But let's take it through, and I'll give you the corporate dumb and wrong first off. Many of you will attack the common sense element to all this, but there's actually a corporate employee dumb aspect to this. It's this. A lot of Marvel's business is built on licensing. It's built on the idea that you could take characters, you could take IP, and you could put them on T-shirts and posters. Probably not posters that much. You can put them on wallpapers on your phone, and yeah, you could make games out of them. And as it turns out, Disney makes a decent amount of money on this. In fact, likely makes more money off of the licensing of the characters overall than they do off the printed comics. The licensing business, the idea that we're going to correlate one thing to another, is core to that business, that property. But licensing is not one directional; it's two directional. And if you look at kind of the pitch that a David Gabriel or people at the higher levels above Tom, sell their business on. And people certainly at the Marvel licensing, or sorry, the Disney licensing, that I guess they moved out of Burbank, but the different parts of, or did they move out of Burbank? Maybe they're still there. I don't know. Anyway, Disney moves their people around. That license, that whole office got kind of decimated, and then they built them, like right as they were decimating a bunch of employees in the licensing department. Disney built this giant new cafeteria for them. And the word there was like, okay, so you finally have given us a place to eat, and now you're firing most of us. Okay, happy days. Anyway, my point in all of this is the statement of the popularity in Marvel Rivals likely has more to do with the play mechanics than it does the characters themselves. This is a bit of a damning statement when the characters themselves were licensed for, decent money to make this game. And if you're saying, hey, it's just the play mechanics, it has nothing to do with the characters, why would any company license anything from Marvel? Why are they like, you know what, screw it, you're right, let's just make some generic K-pop singer like characters and go nuts. Who cares about the characters? That has nothing to do with anything. Not only does that destroy that core part of the business, I mean, it really is basically saying, hey, licensors, there's nothing to see here. You're gonna need a good game. You're gonna need good game mechanics. The characters don't really matter. What you put in does. I mean, like, fuck. I mean, if DC's cheaper, just use them. It's fine. It'll be fine. And that it's just so stupid, and it goes against the business that Disney and Marvel are trying to do. I have to stress that because, goddamn, we talk a lot. A lot of people talk a lot about creators attacking fans or saying Trump supporters are stupid or all the rest. But there's a lot of ways you can just be in the way of your own company. And, it's not a dictatorship. Of course, you're welcome to have your own opinion and go out and say things and everything else. You're not, as an employee, you're not beholden to just promote your company's ideas. But damn, if you're a senior editor at a company and you're actively making an argument against your own licensing business, why? This is just why. What's wrong with you? Like, anyway, it's just dumb. Getting away from that, then there's the more obvious reason, which hey, if it can't hurt. Look, if something is popular and, I mean, when I'm going to give you a really stupid example. Years and years ago, in the World Wrestling Federation, although I think it was a WWE at this point, or at that point, there was a character gimmick called Fandango. Okay. Fandango was a character. It was like a dancing character. I don't remember. Vince was on some high amount of cocaine at the time, undoubtedly. But this character, I believe, if memory serves me right, it was kind of a vague attempt to cash in on things like Dancing with the Stars. The character would come out and dance and then wrestle and then dance some more. And for whatever reason, the theme song caught on. Not right away, as I recall, but like mid run. It was a short run because the character turns out a dancing wrestler like that wasn't particularly interesting to anybody. But the theme song caught on. The WWE, not Marvel, the WWE quickly pushed it out on iTunes and just sold as much of that shit as they could in that moment. They leapt into action immediately. And when you think about licensing, you think about a company that something becomes popular for no apparent reason, and then you're going to milk the shit out of it. The WWE, the wrestling company, does a pretty good job of this. They will, they will listen. They will hear something is popular, and they will just start vomiting out T-shirts and foam hands and everything they can to make money off of it as fast as they can. So much so that it's kind of a meme at this point with the company, but they will aggressively push anything possible. Marvel, on the other hand, and what's really confusing about this is Disney as a company is typically really good at licensing. They are good at finding every penny that they can make off of anything and creating that synergy between products. They're not always great at it, but they're pretty good. Whatever else you think about Disney, they milk it. Go into a Target right now. We're getting a Lilo and Stitch movie. Stitch is everywhere. For Easter, there was Stitch baskets and eggs, and like they are just everything you could put Stitch on. It's on. Like they are doing everything they can to connect those dots. It's puzzling then that Marvel doesn't, and it's puzzling that there's this attitude of no, I don't think it has anything to do, nothing to see here. And perhaps what's most puzzling and hypocritical about the entire thing is that, on one hand, you will hear them say, oh no, a game is really popular. We don't need to do anything. We don't need to do anything like that. And then the same guy, Tom, will basically reshuffle, give Bendis his own comic book based off the Avengers from the movie. Basically giving them a lineup of exactly the same characters, change the costumes around so they match the movie. Do you remember that? Like, there was a comic book that I think it was Bendis, and I believe he co-wrote with Kelly Thompson for a while, if I'm remembering right. But anyway, this was they will jump at anything to interrupt storylines, interrupt comics that are actually selling well, all of that kind of stuff to rapidly puke out a number one issue of something that connects to the movie. We will put Darcy in the fucking Scarlet Witch book because we want to have some connection to the TV show. They will absolutely, and there's tons of writers who have complained about this, interrupt storylines and runs and everything else to try and create corporate synergy. You make Phil Coulson into a character and then make him death because you want to have some corporate synergy. There's stuff that they will do all day, every day. And Tom Brevoort personally himself oversaw tons of this. And then he comes out and says, this video game, something is popular. I don't know. I don't see any real connection outside of maybe one or two outliers. One of those outliers, most likely, pains me to a great deal. It's Jeff the Land Shark, a character I absolutely find stupid on every conceivable level. However, and by the way, if you go back in time since pretty much the origin of this channel, Jeff the Land Shark, dumb as hell. Thank you, Kelly Thompson. Thank you for that, absolute abortion of a character. I hate that character. But if I was running Marvel right now, you're damn right I would have a comic book out of Jeff the Stupid Land Shark because, turns out that character is popular in Marvel Rivals. I would take advantage of it if I could. Now, Tom is somewhat right about one thing. And that is, if a video game is popular, or for that matter, a movie is popular, it doesn't mean that people are going to watch that movie, play that game, and then immediately run to their local comic shop and say, give me that comic. And a lot of reasons behind this, one, comics aren't everywhere. That's the problem of distribution that we've talked about for a long time. If comic books were everywhere, you'd see a lot quicker connection. The other problem is price. If you went to a movie, I mean, you pay $6 for a movie and you're like, I think I'll go buy a comic book of that, of the characters I saw. And you walk into a store and buying 2 comic books is going to cost you $8 for a very thin 22-page thing that, you open the comic book up, and rather than seeing kind of the big action scenes you just saw in the movie, you see people having lunch. That's a problem too. But put it this way, doing a comic book based off of something that's popular is just obvious. It's a smart thing to do. It doesn't mean that everything is going to immediately turn to gold, but my God, why would you not want to attempt it? I mean, what is the harm in cashing in? Because that's, at the end of the day, that's what it is. It's basically saying, hey, we got something popular in one place. Let's see if we can extend that popularity somewhere else. Maybe you'll be successful, maybe you won't. But I'll tell you, it's going to be far more likely that that's going to be a success than, say, I don't know, just randomly inventing a new character. Is saying that, hey, here's this legacy character, and now it's a completely different one because, I don't know, the writer got bored. I mean, look, there have been people at Marvel who have solicited for a pitch for a storyline where Norman Osborn's grandson or nephew or whatever the hell he is turns into a Carnage, and we want to do a comic book series on that. And this is something that Marvel is actually actively out shopping to people. And yeah, on the other hand, they're handed a gift of a video game that is popular with characters that are fairly underutilized. You don't think you could put a comic out? And then when you put that comic out, are you gonna actually try and make a story out of it, put a good artist on it, do something that will further elevate the character? Or are you going to try and do some tongue-in-cheek dumbass thing where it's like, we're video game characters and now we're trying to be social media influencers? Are you going to basically give them a storyline that has nothing to do with kind of the character's personality and attributes that make them cool in the video game? Or are you going to try and subvert expectations by having them run a food truck? Like, it's hard to watch this stuff when it's so stupid. And when I start out making videos, a lot of the time, like, I want to say something about, somebody who's really doing something clever in comics. And then you run across this stuff from Tom, who not only makes, it makes dumb decisions, is absolutely a hypocrite. If you look at his time with the Avengers and some of the stuff he did, he absolutely is doing a lot of stuff he says he doesn't do now. And then he's so damn smug about it. The complete and absolute lack of any humility over his decisions, what he does it's just painful to watch. And it's not like there's tons of W's on the board here. This X-Men Krakoa era is a absolute failure. You desperately wish for the return of Jordan White so you could actually have some sales and mildly coherent story. Bring back Vidal and New Mutants. Please. We take it. Thanks for listening.